Most men are surrounded by noise. If you've seen any of my videos, you know I'm talking about opinions, likes, followers, whatever it may be. And the problem is, though, men mistake that for guidance. Moreover, every time a man needs someone else to tell him whether he's doing the right or wrong thing, he loses a piece of his own voice and his own character. Moreover, validation feels like growth, although it's really just comfort disguised as approval. Leadership in a man begins when he stops needing other people to tell him what to do and he starts taking actions into his own hands. Howdy, my name is Nolan T. Painter. I'm an aspiring young man with aspirations greater than anyone will ever understand. And in today's video, I want to talk about how men can never become leaders if they're constantly seeking validation. So let's look at the trap. How do we fall into this problem, this pitfall, this thing that all men suffer with, seeking external validation? Well, validation is a craving for permission. We want to be rich, we want to be famous, we want to have wives, but we need permission to do so, because those are things that are difficult to ascertain, so we need someone to tell us that it's possible. But to do that means that we need to exist without a confidence. Because if we need people to give us permission, that means we don't have confidence to just do it ourselves. Which is problem area number one, no confidence. Number two, men chase validation because it hides their fear. Men are terrified of losing. I'm terrified of losing. There's a lot of stuff I can't lose, a lot of stuff I don't even have yet that I'm afraid of missing out on. And the fear of being wrong is also a problem. I don't want to be wrong. So desperately I want to work hard and be able to say, yes, I was right, I knew what I was doing. Or the fear of being unseen, putting all my effort into being a better person for someone I love, and they don't even see all the effort I'm putting in. Additionally, we need to consider feedback, which is important, but we'll never actually know ourselves whether what we're looking for is feedback or just appraisal or approval. That takes time to understand. And of course, the world teaches men to build an image before a character, which is a problem we see on social media. The idea that we need to constantly be our best self, or people only desire the best of ourselves. So we build a falsified image based in what we want people to perceive us as, rather than just making our character, our actions, what we believe in, just closely aligned to what we would ideally find in a man. And when you live for others' approval, when you live to make this perfect image, you lose your outside, or you lose your peace, your external peace, what just makes you who you are, because all of a sudden you're living for everyone else. Think about politics, right? When people go into politics, they're constantly trying to build this image that people like. Why? Because people don't actually care about the leaders, they only care about what others think. They vote people in based off of popularity, off of majority. It doesn't matter if you're good or not, it's just if people like you or not. People make their opinions off of politicians, not based off of the research that they've done, but based off of what others tell them what to think. So at the end of the day, if you're being pushed around based off of what others want you to believe, you're no more a man than a woman is. So if your confidence can be given to you by others, and if your perspective is only lended to you by what others say, it can also be taken. So let that be a lesson to you. If you can get happiness from others telling you things, you can also get destroyed. So here's the cost of living for approval. Seeking validation is like chasing dopamine, right? You watch porn so you can fill that void in your heart with dopamine. You smoke or vape or have addictions or go to parties to fill that void in your heart. You want to be happy, you want dopamine. And that comes when you seek approval from others. You want numbers to go up, you want likes, you want shares, you want subscribers. You want a bunch of people to say you're doing awesome. You don't even want the actual result, you just want to feel like you're doing it. Think of it this way, if you want to make $1 million, what's harder? Actually making the money, or have everyone pretend like you're actually working towards it? Having people pretend and just give you a praise and just say, wow, Nolan, you're doing so good, or whoever you are, you're doing so good. That's way nicer than just actually putting in the work. But at the end of the day, the man who put in the work is actually going to have the result. So you need to be careful, because if you're constantly living for approval, you're going to be less likely to get the result and more likely to fall into the trap of just chasing after approval. You'll feel productive when people are giving you praise, saying, good job, you're doing stuff. You'll feel like you're on the right track. But ultimately, you would have just done nothing. Because the man who's led by praise will always crumble under silence, because the moment that people stop telling him to do work, the moment people stop telling him that he's doing good, is the moment he'll just feel like he's not doing anything. And as dangerous as that is, it reminds me, in a relationship setting when you are with a woman, it's essential that she does say the right things. Because men are so driven by what other people around them say, as it is our job after all to serve, and our serving is based off of the impact that we leave to others, which leaves us with the responsibility of informing women, or with women with the responsibility to actually lead men emotionally through their feedback. Because if a woman is constantly telling you, you're doing bad, well, how does the man going to feel? How is he going to interpret that? He's going to give up because he's doing bad. But if a woman tells a man, you're doing amazing, keep on going, you're not allowed to give up, you have to work, that feedback triggers him to work harder. Naturally, though, we haven't achieved this state where we actually have a beautiful partner to tell us these things, and we're not aware enough. We haven't reached that third tier of awareness to acknowledge the benefits of having feedback and validation. We're stuck at the first part, which is knowing, which is our desire to get validation, but we're not actually using that validation to be better versions of ourselves. We're just using it to fill this void in our heart. So, confidence built on others, filling this void based on whatever other people say, often doesn't prepare us for the lack thereof. When someone tells me, no, Nolan, you made a typo or you did something wrong, it just makes me upset because I don't actually want to do good. I just want to feel good. But just careful, you have to make that clear with yourself. Because if you want to do good, sometimes you have to feel bad, right? Sometimes it's not going to go the way you want. And if you start shaping your life around the camera, around wanting to do things to please people, not say the truth, you're not doing it for yourself, and you're certainly not doing it for your own soul. You're doing it for others. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to do there's nothing wrong with wanting to do things for other people. It's okay to want to do things for other people, wanting to be generous to other people and for other people, and having a good character to represent yourself. But if you're constantly finding your own self-worth off of others, that's the problem area. Because that's not leadership, that's just a dependence disguised as progress. So how do we build a self-trust? How do we fill this void in our heart off of ourselves? Well, the strongest men lead themselves first, right? I know you want the pretty girl, but first of all, you gotta have the pretty heart. I know you want to have a nice car, but first of all, you need the funds. So you gotta work on yourself first, right? Good men make choices without consulting the crowd. Because I know the crowd might have some good things to say, and especially in a YouTube scenario where I'm dependent on you guys having support for me, it's important for me to acknowledge the crowd. But you guys are making these videos, you aren't determining the quality of them, that's my job, and it's my job to make them better. So a man grounded in his mission, grounded in truth, because logic can be skewed. He's like this pull in the ocean. I love that analogy. A man is a pull in the ocean, and waves will hit him, but he will never shake. So a man grounded in his truth, grounded in his mission, doesn't need to convince anyone he's right, because the fruits of his labor will show he's right. If you want to be a millionaire, you don't got to tell everyone that. Just make the money, and people go, wow, you're a millionaire. So don't bother yourself with telling people your plan. I'm at the point in my life where it's easier done than said. Screw easier said than done. I'm at the point where it's harder to explain what I want to do than just to do it. So just do the work. And additionally, a man who has like a direction rooted in truth doesn't need validation because he knows what he's right. He knows what he believes in. And truth isn't just a feeling, but it's evidence-based research based on your own reflection that you can then acknowledge and use to shape your life in a better place. Truth isn't finding the first person you meet and going, oh yeah, this and that, and making your opinion. Truth is finding someone like a politician and doing research and discovering and learning and reflecting. Now take that politician or that other person and apply it to yourself. Find the truth within yourself. And that requires a lot of conviction. Because real faith in solitude is built within yourself. It's built with your inner authority. And you can't trust your own judgment in silence. You can't trust your own judgment until you've actually taken the time to build your judgment in a good way. And if you can't build your own judgment in silence, how are you supposed to stand firm in a crowd when there's a lot of noise against you? Right? The problem is there's so much noise that we forget to have the silence which allows us to reconcile within ourselves in the first place. How are you supposed to reflect if you're constantly distracted? But in moments of reflecting, how are you supposed to then expand and learn to the point where you're able to actually build? One moment. My alarm's going off. I have to return the equipment in a moment. Regardless. So, point is, if you can't trust yourself when you're alone in your own judgment because you're always distracted, then how are you supposed to actually build the judgment when you are distracted? So take the time on your own and build yourself first before searching for others. And a man who knows where he's going, who knows he's right, oftentimes doesn't need to be told he's on the right road. So how do we look for validation in relationships? Because I said earlier, relationships are essential to the point where validation is critical in a man's journey. If you're a man with a woman and the woman is always telling you, like nagging you, saying you're making all these mistakes, I hate it when you make these mistakes, it's nice to be told when you're wrong. Of course, you want to be right. But if it's always, I didn't like the way you did this, or you did this wrong, or you did this wrong, or you're a failure, or you're spending too much time doing this, right? Then how are you supposed to grow from that? Right? You're just going to feel like a loser. You're going to give up. But if it's, I appreciate if you do this, or please do this, or please get better, or you know what, I expect you'll get better. I love you and you will get better. You are going to get better and you have no choice but to get better. One man's going to go be a garbage man and the other man's going to buy his girlfriend a Porsche because he has the money for it. Because she supported him. Women often underestimate, critically, insanely underestimate their ability to impact a man based on words alone. As a man, you can probably think of at least 10 examples, okay, maybe not 10, but 5 good examples of when a woman said something to you in your life that you never forgot. Like never, never, never forgot. Men are critical when it comes to feedback. That's why we have this whole validation problem. So it's essential that women understand the significance of their words in a relationship. I'm a perfect example of this. A woman wouldn't say something, or she would say something, and that brought me to this point in my life where I'm sitting in front of a camera, grinding my day out like there's no tomorrow, trying to make myself a better man. So when a man looks to his partner for validation, he also stops leading. So validation needs to come to him in a form of support, not in a form of dependency as if he's searching for it. And if a woman wants peace, she won't want pressure. So she shouldn't have this pressure to constantly be giving you this. It should be a desire that she has from her heart. So that desire will come from a calm place rather than a chaotic place as a form of pressure. So think of it this way. If a man is always pressuring his woman for feedback, or always just putting it on her in a way that makes her feel uncomfortable, then she won't want to give him the right things, and she won't want to say the right things. If a man's playing video games all day, the right woman would say, hey honey, I know you have a lot more to do in your life, and I know you I know you can do a lot more with your life than this. And that tells the man that he's got more in life than just video games. But if a woman comes to him, same woman says, oh, honey, all you do is play video games, you're nothing. Well then, those are 2 different ways to say the exact same thing, and they result in 2 very different outcomes. But those outcomes are based on how you treat your partner. So if you want your woman to say the right things, you have to actually do the right things initially. And masculine strength isn't loud reassurance. Masculine strength isn't always being told the right things. It's working with what you have to make things right. And love isn't about being constantly tested or having your loyalty constantly tested to the point where you need reassurance. Love is just having the reassurance through your actions. It's through offering safety through the truth and doing the right things. And a man's peace teaches her trust. A man's peace, his silence, his calm, teaches the woman trust to the point where she doesn't need to constantly seek validation from him. Validation between partners should be something to build each other, not to just reaffirm what you've already should have had, being distrust. Granted, communication is essential, and even communicating about things that oftentimes people would consider to be bad is still necessary to have a healthy relationship. Because masculine peace, this ideal thing that we all want, is the most achievable and is the most attractive energy you can give a woman when it's built through being gentle and patient. And that patience comes with waiting for the right thing to say and taking the time to say the right thing yourself. So here's the freedom of self-leadership. You're now leading yourself, a relationship or not, you're leading yourself. I mean, regardless, in a relationship at one point in your life, you were leading yourself, because to lead a woman, you got to lead yourself to get there. So the freedom of this is that every man must choose between being an echo or a voice. So he either responds to what everyone else says and he becomes a part of the herd, right? He's like a sheep in a herd, he just becomes like everyone else. Or he can set his own path. And think about it. There's not many millionaires, but there's a lot of broke people. So you can follow everyone else and be broke, or you can make your own path. But that comes with initially determining that you want to be different, and that comes with making your own voice. But that's in the freedom. You get to make that choice. And validation will make you popular. It will make you fit in with everyone else. But self-leadership will make you actually free from everyone else. You don't have to stick to the confines of what people say. You can say, screw you, I'm going to have a spine and I'm going to stick up for myself. Moreover, having a spine, having balls, and just standing up for what you believe is essential in being a good man in a relationship. Because how can a woman trust you to actually stand up for yourself if you can't stand up for yourself when you're all alone and you're not protecting or worrying about additional things like a relationship? And in the silence, you're going to prove your worth, right? You're going to protect your worth in the chaos. Because when no one's around, you're just proving your worth to yourself and reaffirming what you believe and just working hard to become a better man based in truth. And when the time comes, when the noise returns, the distractions return, you'll be strong enough to stand for yourself and stand up against everything that wants to pull you away from your dreams. Think about it this way. When you're battling lust, right, as a man, we all understand what lust is. If you're battling lust, you're not battling it in public. You're battling it when you're alone, when you're in the bathroom, when you're in bed. That's where you're fighting it. So you battle that alone when there's no distractions, nothing pulling you away. But then, let's say you've been battling lust and you've been winning. Or you've been fleeing from lust more so, and you've been winning. When you go to public and you see billboards of like naked women or sex stores or this and that, or even if you're scrolling on Instagram and you start getting a bunch of nonsense on your phone and it's a bunch of, I'll go ahead and say just straight up pornography or OnlyFans or this and that. That's the noise coming in to take you away from all your battling and all your fighting that you've done in silence. But all that fighting will strengthen you or harden you enough to be the man who's able to actually overcome the distractions. And once you realize how much life is trying to just pull you away, or maybe not so life, but how much society is trying to pull you away from this masculine dream, the more you'll realize that you better just reassure yourself rather than rely on what others say, because it's all built in such a way that pulls you away from that initial battle. If you want to overcome these challenges, it comes from doing it yourself, not relying on others. And the moment you no longer need to be seen by others, that's when you are finally worth being seen as who you are. My name is Nolan T. Painter. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.